We're now one company in Australasia called Kilimanjaro. Our one CEO now, Ronnie Baskin, is going to kick us off with a bit of inspiring history that will help us get a better future. So Ronnie, welcome, and thanks again for your sponsorship, and we look forward to hearing from you with your presentation.
Thanks, Grant. Thank you very much for that very generous introduction. I just have to organize my technology over here a little bit to share my screen with you. There we go. Give me one moment and let's see if this is going to work. Screen one. There we go. Grant, can you see that? Share.
As a matter of fact, it just took a minute or two, but that's fair enough. All the children have come home from school and using the broadband across countries. Okay, yeah, good as gold, Ronnie.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Grant, thanks for the introduction. And again, as you said, apologies for the changes in the timing. Not only did the Queen's public holiday interfere, but also daylight savings. So some of you in New Zealand are going to have a slightly later finish than we would have desired. But so be it. So the theme for today is actually about innovation, and it's about the interaction or the intersection between innovation and change, which is quite an interesting one. If one looks at the definition of innovation, and this definition was given by Peter Drucker, who's probably the most famous strategist. Peter Drucker said innovation is the specific instrument of entrepreneurship, the act that endows resources with a new capacity to create wealth. And talking to this group today of MYOB advanced users, we know that you are all early adopters. In all likelihood, you are entrepreneurs. And what you're looking to do with your software is to somehow use it to create wealth. That's easier said than done. And one of the things that I would like to talk about is what I call an innovation culture. Because innovation isn't just about how you do this, it's about who you involve in the process as well. And I quite like this little diagram where it spoke about an innovation culture being an attitude, a mindset, values and beliefs, norms and behaviors in an organization, driven by leaders, individual and teams, and imagining, instilling, involving and inspiring innovation in the company. It's a little bit of a difficult concept to get your head around. Quite a few years ago, Kilimanjaro was invited to participate in an international benchmarking study about best practice management. And one of the questions was about innovation, to try and evaluate and to rank companies on the basis of this innovation culture. And I couldn't really see how that was going to be done. We were presented with a framework that looked something like this. So you had drivers of innovation, design of innovation, and outcomes of innovation. And that all looked pretty confusing to me. At the end of the day, the result that came out for Kilimanjaro was that we were contenders, which was equally confusing. I'm not sure where a contender sits in the scale, at the bottom or near the top. But being contenders, I then went and I drilled down and had a look in more detail at the questions that were being asked. So one of them was, do leaders lead by example through their innovative actions? Are you encouraging your employees to think and act in an innovative way? Are you encouraging teamwork? Because it's in teams that you get that little spark of innovation, and you get those moments where somebody might say something and somebody else says, aha, but we can do it differently. The other drivers that they asked us about were problem solving, processes, and then number 6 over there, probably the most important, is that is your innovation built around your clients' requirements? Do you know what your clients want? And are you innovating to provide your clients with what they want? There were a few more other questions over there. And the one that did strike me was number 9 there, the last one, that if you're not allocating budget in our organization, budget being time and therefore money, if you're not allocating budget to innovation, you won't get innovation. that whole framework was a little bit too theoretical for me. And some years later, I stumbled across a framework developed by Gartner, which is a very famous international management consultancy. And they called this their open innovation framework. And in that, they looked at what they called directed innovation. So above the line, you had directed, and below the line, you had suggestive. To the left, you had invitational, and to the right, you had participative. And to go through those blocks one at a time, top right-hand corner is where you would direct a group of individuals to address a specific innovation or problem. This is the issue we have. You are the people that need to solve this problem for us. So that is called directed participative. The bottom right-hand one, where there's no specific problem to solve, but you need to generate ideas. Now, I'm going to give you a really good example of that in a moment, a very famous case study of a company called 3M. Most of us in our companies don't have the luxury of being able to spend money on this type of innovation, where you give people the freedom to just go away and innovate with no specific problem. The bottom left-hand quadrant, not open to everyone, so it's invitational, only certain people invited. The topic is focused on a specific issue. And the top left, you pre-screen and you select participants with expertise related to the issue at hand. And that's pretty much the 4 quadrants that you could look at. So let's go down and look at this example of a no specific problem to solve, but needs to generate ideas. There's a really, really interesting book called The Evolution of Useful Things. And this really talks about these innovative ideas that have popped up when there's been no specific problem to solve, but something has just happened and has led to a good result. So for example, why does a pitchfork have 3 prongs and a table fork has 4? And what's the difference between a Phillips head screw and a single grooved screw? And why does the paper clip look the way that it does? In this book, Henry Petrosky talks about this company called 3M. Now, 3M is a company that originally dealt with abrasives. So you're talking about sandpaper, you're talking about cutting discs, abrasives, those sort of things. But one of the things that they did in their company, they had this innovation culture, and they allowed their scientists to pursue their own crazy ideas and just innovate without any problem in mind. And they called that bootlegging. And in 1968, one of the scientists at 3M, when he was trying to develop a superglue, actually accidentally created a low-tack, reusable adhesive. And this was a solution to a problem that didn't really exist. And it just sat there. And 5 years later, one of his colleagues, who was a religious man and used to go to church on Sunday, and in his hymn book, he had put in little pieces of paper to mark the spot. And naturally, each time he opened his hymn book, the piece of paper would fall out. So he decided to use this low-tack adhesive, put it on the back of a piece of paper to mark the spot in his hymn book. And lo and behold, when he removed the paper, it didn't damage the page of his hymn book because it was low-tack. And that was the origin of the Post-it note that came out of this permitted bootlegging idea, where you allowed your employees, you gave your employees the latitude to just discover things with no particular problem to solve. So that's in the book, and it's really worth reading the book, because this isn't the only example of the evolution of useful things. More specifically, though, when we're talking about innovation and change, one of our experiences at Kilimanjaro has been that when we are looking to implement either a complete solution, in other words, a business management system, or even a portion of that, we go through a framework. And in that framework, there are 4 main areas. We've got design, we've got build, we've got UAT, which stands for user acceptance testing, and UAT and T, so user acceptance testing and training. And then we've got the go live. So inside that block, those are the 4 main areas. But the magic in this is how you constitute this design phase and who sits in the room. So what you do is you don't have this open to everyone, The topic is focused on a specific issue, but you need to make sure that the right people are sitting in that team. And when I say the right people, it's not necessarily only the people that have done this in the past. It's people that can bring fresh ideas and new momentum to those processes and can say, I don't know why we do that. And why don't we do it this way? And is it possible to do this? In that grouping, you need to have your technical person that understands the software, so they can then answer that by saying, well, if that's what you want to do, we can do that with the software. Or, by the way, if that's what you want to do, the software does this, which may be slightly different, but slightly better. So really, really important, if you want innovation, to actually bake it in to your processes and ideally use this suggestive invitational approach. And I think, Grant, that's pretty much what I wanted to say about innovation and change and the intersection between the two. Just as a little bit of a reminder, I guess the message in my little talk here is that management needs to encourage people to be innovative. You're not going to get innovation in a company if management is saying, we're not interested in change, just stick to the knitting and do what we do and keep doing it the way we've done it for the last 20 years. Make sure that you as management allocate time and dollars to innovation. It can't happen without that. Choose the appropriate model, directed or suggestive, invitational or participative. Work out which is going to give you the best results in that. As I said, it's the choice of people that are going to be critical. And then involve people that know what you don't know. So don't make the assumption that you know everything. Invite people that you know have got differing ideas. And you really need to get diversity of thought into that team that's dealing with the innovation. And my favorite T-shirt, I work at Kilimanjaro. I solve problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. And I think that is true innovation. So, Grant, thank you very much for the opportunity to address this user group. It's always a pleasure to sponsor. And hopefully next year again, we will see people not only online, but in person as well.